Man, these are some of the cheapest bosses that FromSoft has created since Dark Souls 2. What the fuck are with all these gang fights, man? Did FromSoft not listen to any of the negative feedback Dark Souls 2 got? Nobody likes these encounters, and the reason is because you have to wait a fucking lifetime to get one single hit in since enemy attacks are always overlapping with each other. There's barely any window to attack now, which makes this game less of an action RPG and more of a waiting one. It's boring as fuck, man. Oh, and look at this shit. One of the bosses hitting me through the other one. I would say that the gang fights in this game are worse than Dark Souls 2 because more often than not, they take two bosses originally designed for you to fight solo and haphazardly throw them together in a small ass arena. The second half of this game is filled with this shit. They needed to up the difficulty, but instead of creating new encounters, they take previous bosses and just multiply them by 2. So many repeat bosses too, man. How many times do we have to fight the fucking Erdtree avatar or these dragons that are just simple element swaps? I understand that Elden Ring is an open world game and recycling some content is necessary, but Christ, man, once you reach the capital, you've pretty much seen everything this game has to offer. But going back to the bosses being hyper aggressive, it would be one thing if the player was equipped with a bunch of defensive options and AoE attacks, but we're not. This isn't a fucking hack and slash game. The best we could do is either block or roll, which the latter has been completely debuffed with bosses having attacks that are specifically designed to catch you after a roll. It's like they looked at a bunch of no-hit runs from previous games and took it personally because, man, there's so much inescapable damage in this game if you play as a pure melee build. God bless anyone that went through this game with just a heavy greatsword or something similar because you're not going to get a goddamn hit in without eating shit. No such thing as stamina for bosses anymore, as they're able to just go from one crazy ass anime combo after another. The thing that gets me is the blatant input reading where a boss is able to just switch attacks mid combo, or worse, quickly counterattack after what looks like an opening. You know, props to FromSoft for creating bosses that react to so much, but at the same time, the ambiguity on when you should attack is really fucking annoying. How the fuck are new players supposed to learn boss patterns when they just do what the hell they want? Bosses do mad damage now too, which means you'll be chugging Estus after almost every hit. Maybe I fucked up here by keeping my vigor at 45 my first playthrough, but shit, man, 40 to 45 was usually endgame ready for the previous Souls games. And for those that are saying, oh well, this is Elden Ring, you shouldn't expect things from the previous Souls games since this is its own thing. Bull fucking shit. We all know that this game is Dark Souls 4 in all but name. Other than the open world, it has the same damn mechanics as the previous Souls games, so I'm not trying to hear that shit. A lot's been said about the delayed attacks, and yeah, it's pretty fucking annoying that so many enemies in this game take an eternity to swing their weapons. It's clear that FromSoft wanted to punish the habits of older players for whatever reason. I don't have too much of a problem with it since eventually you adapt to these new timings. I just don't like how it looks or feels. Like if someone's gonna bonk you over the head with a weapon, they're not gonna hold that shit over their heads for 5 fucking seconds. They're just gonna swing that shit. It looks so stupid, especially paired with the 180 tracking that's made its return from Dark Souls 2. After that game, I was hoping to see less of this type of stuff, not more of it. The player-controlled camera is all of a sudden ass now with so many bosses and strong enemies being 500 feet tall. You can barely see what these assholes are about to do when they're hacking away at their feet. Now, this is not a new issue as big camera-eating monstrosities have always been staples in the Souls games. However, they're more of a pain in the ass here since, for one, there's more of them, and practically all of them have several AoE attacks that they like to bust out whenever the player is close. Would it be an issue if the camera was pulled back a bit to where you can see these moves coming? But nah, the camera's up your ass crack, with the player having to react to every little twitch a boss does. Also, what the fuck is with the horseback combat in this game, man? When given the option, do people actually prefer fighting on torrent? Because to me, fighting on horseback has been inherently less satisfying than fighting guys the normal way. You're handicapped as hell with only being able to do side swipes that will more often than not miss since the lock-on is so clunky. And fighting other horseback enemies is especially a pain in the ass since they don't know how to attack the player either. This results in some of the goofiest looking cavalry fights where you and the player are just taking turns chasing after each other doing minuscule hits. Except it's almost always in the computer's favor since Torrent can't take any damage. Seriously, one solid hit on Torrent will have him biting dust, which makes me wonder if you're even supposed to be fighting on horseback at all. I guess all in all, I just don't fuck with the new design philosophy that FromSoft has now when creating bosses. I get the feeling when constructing a lot of these bosses, instead of asking themselves, okay, how can we make this fight interesting? They ask themselves, okay, how can we make this fight punishing? You know, it's not enough that Melania has a barely telegraphed insta-kill move that can catch you from half the arena. Nah, she also has to heal after every hit landed on you, even when blocking. It's not enough that Malekith has endless stamina, jumping around the arena throwing energy slashes. Nah, all his hits do damage over time that's almost guaranteed to kill you without healing. It's not enough that Elden Beast constantly swims across this big ass arena to where it's a struggle to reach him. Nah, he also has to spam fuck some light attacks that are guaranteed to hit you. FromSoft really buying into their own hype these days. We're the guys that make hard games, that's what you guys want, right? And yeah, I do like my games to be challenging, but not in a way that feels arbitrary. Seems like challenge is the only metric that seems to matter to Souls fans these days, as experimental fights have all been done away with. When's the last time we got bosses that swerved expectations like Maiden Astray or Mikolash? Now I do understand that conceptually these fights aren't the most fun, but at least they were different. Now every fight has to be a duel with an overgrown humanoid. Every fight has to be like Artorias or Slave Knight Gale, not realizing that the reason those fights are memorable is because they're in games where not every boss fight is like that. And yeah, I do understand that the reason why these bosses are overtuned is to account for the spirit ashes, but damn, it really sours the experience for players like me that like to fight bosses unassisted. All this isn't to say that Elden Ring is a bad game or anything. I still think Elden Ring is a great game and one of the best games of the year. I just don't think it's because of the bosses. I think that these are some of the weakest bosses that FromSoft has created since creating the Souls games. Anyway, I'm done bitching and moaning now. Bring on the dislikes.